Quick note before we start, both Maria and I have been ill this week. Maria is still off sick, but I've recovered enough to pull through and get this done. Valid or Tapped is where we take popular beliefs from the internet, opinions, hot takes and fan arguments, and decide whether they're valid or completely tapped. Today's beliefs are all about Stranger Things.
Stranger Things stopped being a mystery and turned into a spectacle.
I mean, I could definitely see where the angle was coming from, because the early seasons were sort of questions first, and then it was answers later. You know, you've got the grit before the bite, but when it came to later seasons, it was more just about, oh my god, look how much money we're putting into it now. This is our massive set piece. Here's an explosion. Here's a Russian. You know what I mean? It just sort of started diverting into the angle of, look what we can put on your screen, rather than being focused around what should be being put on there. I think at the end of the day, they were indecisive about their own directions. They were indecisive about where characters should be going. And quite frankly, I just think there was a lack of care and just more of a desire just to pump out another season. And then we'll see where the next one goes after that. For me, mystery, it creates tension. You know, so where you don't know where it's going to go, when you don't know what's going to happen to this character, that is where you're going to be like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. I'm really drawn in now, but then the spectacle sort of replaced it. It was like, for example, in the season finale, instead of having Steve actually die there and there be a real stake to the ending of that episode, or in that episode, they had the, oh my god, him and Jonathan are now really good friends. Like, this isn't Barney, this isn't Barney the dinosaur, this was meant to be Stranger Things, where this is the big bad, the world's about to end, people are gonna die, we're gonna have a group of heroes either come together or fail to save the world. Not, oh my god, look how good friends they all are. You know, they may as well have had Barney the dinosaur come out and do a bloody cameo appearance. That's the sort of tension in which it was starting to build. You could see where the difference in the show really started, is when it started getting that real audience behind it, and then it got that massive backing from Netflix because it became bigger. Doesn't mean it became better, it just became a bit louder. Yes, with that on, I'm going to say that is absolutely valid.
The horror elements were diluted to keep the show mainstream.
I mean, yeah, when they had less budget, they were focusing more on actual cinematography, they were focusing more on actual storylines, they were focusing more on the actual essence of what the emotion was they were trying to display. And from season 1, it was more about the atmosphere, the silence, the dread, and then it became about jump scares, CGI monsters, and then horror became aesthetic, not emotional. It's sort of, this is what we're doing, not this is how you're going to feel. It went away from fan service and it ended up just being consumerism. It went, right, here's some product. It went from an art to a product. This is what we're going to give you, and what we want in return is views. It's pretty much what it became. Then it became safer for the mass audiences as well. As it got bigger, they sort of started toning it down a bit to be safer for Karen and Gwen and Keith, the 90-year-old, you know, whoever was watching it. They went away from that. I like to say the first couple seasons sort of felt like a little bit indie, but a little bit like small studio, just getting that chance on that big platform. So I'm going to say valid.
Too many fake-out deaths removed real tension.
Yeah, so I mean, I was sort of touching on this one already, but deaths stopped meaning anything. For example, Max died, but then didn't die, and then Steve was about to die, and then didn't die. Yeah, just no one died. That's when they didn't even have the bollocks to kill off Ted Wheeler. They could have killed off the parents, you know what I mean? They did this heroic scene, they saved their kid. That would have been a really good way to go out, you know. I feel like they didn't get much screen time anyway, to be fair, throughout the entire show, and all of a sudden they were this big focal point. They were way too scared, you know, and there's a lot of emotional beats in which were undone later, and that would be like the Max one, for example. If Max had died in season 4, that would have been really beautiful ending for the character. It would have been sad. So they ended season 4 with this big group standing on the field going, we're gonna fight this guy, but not yet. I need 3 years, but not then either, because I need another 6 months. But not then either, because I need another 6 months. You know, it just kept going along and along and along and along and along. And it just meant nothing. To be fair, I did say to Marie as well, since they brought out that Callie, 11's sister, I was like, oh, right, yeah, she's been brought here to die instead of one of the main cast again. It's another Eddie Munson. That's a bit, all they had to do was pull the trigger on just like 1 or 2 of them, and that would have been enough discourse for the fan base to go, oh my god, they actually did it. Glad they got that bugger. But that's the thing, there was no fear towards the villains towards the end of it, because what did Vecna actually achieve? He didn't manage to kill anyone in that final battle. He just got beaten up by some kids, and then Joyce Byers just chopped off his head with an axe, and then he was there like, no, don't do this to me. That's the thing, fear requires permanence, and there was no wonders in my mind on permanence in any of it after fake out, you know. At the end of the day, there was no part of my mind which thought they actually had it in them to kill off a main core character, which is what they just should have done. I'm gonna say absolutely valid.
Major characters survive situations that should have killed them.
I'll give one example. You got Hopper, Chief of Police, and I think in the show they did establish he did do some stuff in the army, but how come it didn't matter how many army men they threw at him? Didn't matter. Hopper was going to beat them all. He's going to beat them all up. Oh no, my superpowered daughter is down. That's fine. Let me just kill all these army men quick. That'll be absolutely easy, light work. I got this. Oh look, an army base. 11, we're going to break in. Oh, your powers don't work? Don't worry, because I have plot armor and I am going to defeat them all. That's the thing, the tension evaporates when the outcomes are so obvious and you knew these things. Oh my god, the good guy won. Yay. The viewers could predict who was safe, and that was anyone in which had a poster, except for Vecna. He wasn't safe, not even from the writers. So I'm going to say valid as well.
Will Byers remained underused despite being essential to the premise.
Season 1 was all about others finding him, and I think Season 5, the message which they wanted you, me, the viewer, to see it was him wanting people to see him for who he has found himself to be. But they're in an intergalactic battle with monsters. I don't really care who he fancies. He's got to go fight this evil man that's going to destroy the entire world in an hour's time, and then they spent a lot of screen time just on him saying, oh, this is who I get it up for, man. This is who I get it up for. I hope you can accept me for who I get it up for. It's like, yeah, cool. Not the penultimate episode to the finale, though. Please, let's get into that episode 1. You know, but oh, that's cool. That's nice. I'm happy for him. You know, I mean, if that was like early in the season, or season 4, or season 3, or you know, not oh my god, we're about to go to war. Have I ever told you about who I get it up for? Actually, he got quite a lot of screen time in Season 5. I think he was used a lot better than he was in Season 4. I think Season 4 he was a bit of a side thought. I don't think they really knew what to do with him. But yeah, I'm going to say tapped. I think he got a lot of screen time in the final season, and I think a lot of the core story was actually still based around him, so I think it was fine.
The rules of the Upside Down became inconsistent.
That's the thing. I think the early rules, they were vague, but they were coherent. You sort of knew what they were. Like, even in Season 4, when they were making these new rules, like with all the Demobats and stuff like that. Don't step on the vine, because Vecna will hear you. In Season 5, they may as well have been slapping them against their cheeks. It just didn't mean nothing anymore. You know, and I know there was a difference because Vecna was now in the Abyss, but I don't even think they thought about that. I don't think they cared. It was like what I was saying, in Season 1, you had to go in the hazmat suits. And now in Season 5, whip off your t-shirt, chuck on a little bandana, and you're good to go, my man. Don't you worry about any consequences. You are on the upper tier of our pay structure, so you are good to go, my man. It's been the later additions to the rules, they always did contradict the earlier ones. I feel like they regretted so many things they did early in the show once they became more mainstream and had to play it safer, or chose to play it safer. So I think just the lore was a bit unstable. I think they didn't know it. They were just trying to pump out another season without actually thinking about what happened in the season before, the season before that. There's a lot of plot holes. And I think it was just very lazy in the writer's room, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going to say it's absolutely valid.
The ending tried to satisfy everyone, but satisfied no one.
I think the divided reactions were inevitable because of the style of series it was, and it became so popular, perhaps too popular for its own good. I think it just ended up getting to the point where they were too scared to get the reaction that they got, but they forced the reaction that they got. They needed to be decisive, they needed to have an action in which meant something. I think regarding the season finale in particular, I think the reason why they spent so much time after the battle where they were then plugging these little characters, because they didn't actually know what they wanted to do with the battle. They didn't know how to do it in a way in which would be grand enough to be worth it. So they put so much after the battle to try and make it an afterthought, so that what you remembered about the show was where the characters ended up, rather than the battle itself, in which the whole battle itself was the whole point of the season and the whole point of the end of the season before. You know, so they sort of put themselves into this hole in which they didn't know how to get out of because they didn't really put enough time in it. It's like they didn't even have the ending written when they started going into production. So every episode that they kept filming, they were pushing themselves further and further and further and further into a hole because they did not have an idea where to go with it. So I'm going to say that's absolutely valid.
Yo, my slimes, subscribe to the Spinouts.